Hi, this is Ryan, the developer from Analog Ergo, just giving a report on my ErgoHack progress over the last week or so. So the mission of Analog Ergo and the atomic swap marketplace is to give an alternative to centralized exchanges, really. That's the bottom line, because centralized exchanges have a lot of problems and we don't want to deal with them forever. So we want an alternative at the bottom line of all of this. So the second thing is we don't want any custodial risks in this application at all when we're swapping coins from chain to chain, because custodial risks in cross-chain situations lose a lot of money, as we've seen from bridging risks and stuff like that. So as you can assume, this also provides liquidity paths to other chains and coins, because there are a few other chains and coins that people like to use, and if we want to have adoption, then we want people to be able to use them without having to jump through the hoops of whatever centralized exchange wants you to do that day for KYC or whatnot in order to do that. So another thing that it does is it promotes self-custodial key ownership and stuff like that. So you must own your own private keys in order to use these applications, and that's really good, because if we want people to stick around for a long time, we want them to know how to hold on to their private key and manage their funds safely so that they have a really good experience with Ergo. Some of the accomplishments from the ErgoHack were a thorough testing of the low-level logic, which is Atomic API, which is handling all of the cryptography involved in the atomic swap operations. It's a pretty important part of the whole project, probably the most important part of the whole project. However, the majority of the focus for this project was actually the more higher-level stuff, which happens to be the REST APIs and the locally hosted web UI. So REST APIs are basically just one level of abstraction higher from the Atomic API. It allows you to interface with the Atomic API from a more high-level source, like a web UI that a user can use in their browser. And as I just said, the web UI is something the user can use in their browser. However, as you can note, it's locally hosted, so we don't run this on some third-party server. The user will locally host their own web UI. And we completed the basic integration for that, which I'm going to demo after the slideshow, which shows you that we can accomplish a lot of the really complicated parts of the atomic swap very fast by automating it through these upgraded user experience things, both on the client and the server side. So the REST APIs, they're necessary for interfacing with the web UI, or really any other kind of interface that you want to build. You could use the REST APIs to build some sort of a interface from a higher level to do atomic swap things with it. It's using the Rust warp library, which is a very straightforward REST API building library in Rust. It separates high and low level logic, as I said before, and the client runs a private one and the server runs both private and public endpoints. The locally hosted web UI is locally hosted for security purposes, because we can't generate cryptographic secrets anywhere other than the client's device for security purposes in this protocol. It uses very basic things like Hugo CSS, which means HTML as well, and vanilla JavaScript. And it's made to be highly customizable, so eventually we'll be able to plug in custom themes for it so that you won't have to be restricted to just some basic theme that we use for testing or something like that. And it basically just uses post and get to interface with the client and server REST APIs to complete the atomic swaps. Thank you for listening to my ErgoHack presentation. If you have any feedback from the upcoming demo or from this current presentation, please let me know. We have a Discord that I recently started, so please join that if you're interested in giving feedback or doing some testing with the upcoming testnet releases. And yeah, thanks for a really fun ErgoHack. So this is going to be a demonstration of the basic features of the locally hosted web UI. For a reminder, it's locally hosted because you can't do this securely on other people's servers. So you would see buttons for logging in and creating a new account. Once you get through there, you'll have a page that will display like a market, and here you can add in a market name and an API URL and click connect, and once you do, the market orders that are available will pop up here. As you can see, there's already one. When you click on them, there's a window for you to show how much you want to fund. So I'll fund it with this much Sepolia Ether, and it just says I'll receive this much in return. So if I fund it with like this much, it'll react to how much you will get in return. So when I click swap here, you'll notice that there will be some response here. This is pretty much simulating the client side of the operation in this top window, and then the server's operation in the bottom window. If we look over here, we can see the explorers. Over here is going to be the address that's going to fund the first contract. So as we can see, there's a pending contract here. So now we can see that there's also a pending funding transaction of 0.001 ETH, which is the amount here. And so as soon as that's done, we'll see a response from that. So now we can see here that the server is responding because the server sees that the contract has been created and funded. In this second window, we can see that the server is going to fund a contract on the Ergo testnet, which is basically the Ergo atomic swap contract. And then once the client sees that, they're going to try to claim that contract. So the person who claims their address is here. You can see they're claiming 1.65 erg. A little less than was estimated, but that's why it's estimated, I suppose. And once that's done, we can see here the server will claim the final funds. So here we can see a receiver withdraw transaction, and it'll say 0.001 ETH from the contract to the server's claiming address. And there you go. So that's the whole swap, proceeding just from clicking swap here and entering the amount that you want to swap with.